Planning to do business with Iran? Beware of the potential risk of sanctions. That's the message the United States has sent out to its close strategic partner, India. Soon after India signed a 10-year contract to operate Iran's Chabahar Port, the US issued a stark warning that its sanctions on Tehran still remain in place, and anyone considering business deals with that country needs to be aware of the potential risk. Responding to a question on India's pact with Iran, Deputy Spokesperson for the US State Department, Vedant Patel, told the media, "We are aware of these reports that Iran and India have signed a deal concerning the Chabahar Port. I will let the government of India speak to its own foreign policy goals vis-a-vis the Chabahar Port, as well as its own bilateral relationship with Iran. I will just say, as it relates to the United States, US sanctions on Iran remain in place and we will continue to enforce them. Anyone considering business deals with Iran needs to be aware of the potential risk that they are opening themselves up to and the potential risk of sanctions." When a reporter asked if there is any exemption for India's Chabahar Port deal, Patel's response was an emphatic no. On Monday, in a historic development, India signed the contract to operate Chabahar Port in Iran, built with Indian aid, to expand trade with Central Asia. The port on the Gulf of Oman will provide Indian goods a gateway to reach landlocked Afghanistan and Central Asia using a road and rail project called International North-South Transport Corridor. Significantly, this route bypasses Pakistan and it's taken India 2 decades to get here. New Delhi had first proposed this plan back in 2003, but US sanctions on Iran over its suspected nuclear program slowed down the port's development. A long-term agreement to develop the Chabahar Port has been signed by Indian Ports Global Limited and the Port and Maritime Organization of Iran. IPGL will invest about $120 million and another $250 million will be raised as debt. The ceremony for the signing of the pact was attended by Sarbanand Sonowal, India's Minister for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, and Iran's Transport and Urban Development Minister, Mehrdad Bazarpash, in Tehran. The new pact replaces a 2016 agreement which covered India's operations at Shahid Beheshti terminal in Chabahar Port and was renewed annually. Why is this deal historic? This is the first time India takes over the management of an overseas port that is expected to boost exponentially trade among India, Iran and Afghanistan. The Ministry of External Affairs has allocated 100 crore rupees for the Chabahar Port for the year 2024-25. The official statement released on Monday states this 10-year long-term lease agreement further strengthens the bilateral ties between the two countries while bolstering confidence and boosting trust of trading communities from the region. It adds, as part of the agreement, India will procure various equipment required to expand operations at the port. The agreement paves the way for enhanced trade and investment opportunities which could boost India's economic development. Union Minister Sonowal said, "With the signing of this contract, we have laid the foundations of India's long-term involvement at Chabahar." The Chabahar Port is being projected as a key hub for the International North-South Transport Corridor project, a 7,200-kilometer-long multi-mode transport project for moving freight between India, Iran, Afghanistan, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Russia, Central Asia and Europe. It is expected to reduce transportation costs and time, thereby promoting trade between these regions. Many see this as India's answer to China's Belt and Road Initiative. As we mentioned, discussions on developing Chabahar Port were first held in 2003 during then Iranian President Mohammad Khatami's visit to India. New Delhi's interest in Chabahar came from the port's value as a gateway for Indian goods to reach markets in Afghanistan and Central Asia. In 2013, India committed to investing $100 million towards its development. A memorandum of understanding to develop the port was signed in May 2015. The contract was executed in 2016 during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Iran. The new pact replaces one-year contracts that were being signed to keep the port operational until now. That was a big disincentive for shippers to use the port as they were looking for a more permanent arrangement. Located in the Sistan-Baluchistan province on Iran's southwestern coast, Chabahar Port is at an important point on the Arabian Sea, with easy access from India's west coast. Kandla Port in Gujarat is the closest port at 550 nautical miles, while the distance between Chabahar and Mumbai is 786 nautical miles. Since 2019, the port has handled more than 80,000 20-foot equivalent units or TEUs of container traffic and more than 8 million tons of bulk and general cargo. The port also offers an alternative route from the Strait of Hormuz for cargo traffic between Central Asian countries and Afghanistan. This diversification strengthens India's strategic position in the region. The port's integration with the special free zone augments its appeal, while India's incentives such as concessions on vessel-related charges and cargo charges bolster trade flows through Chabahar, fostering economic growth and cooperation. The deal is also significant as it comes amid geopolitical disruption in West Asia. In recent weeks, Iran and Israel have clashed militarily after Tehran accused Tel Aviv of launching an airstrike against an Iranian diplomatic building in Syria in the month of April. Iran also launched a barrage of missile and drone attacks on Israel. India has expressed concern as tensions rise in the region. It has maintained a diplomatic dialogue with Iran on issues of concern, such as attacks on India-linked ships by Yemen's Houthi rebels, who are believed to have links to Iran. Apart from its strategic importance, Chabahar Port also has the potential to generate considerable revenue. In the first half of financial year 2024-25, container cargo handling at the Shahid Beheshti terminal was pegged at 25.788 TEUs, while bulk cargo handling at around 1.5 million metric tons. The port's capacity for cargo handling is currently 8 million metric tons. India plans to expand this to 18 million metric tons in the next phase. India is looking to strengthen its presence in key infrastructure along the route passing through the Persian Gulf. The Adani Group already operates the Haifa port in Israel, and more port deals by Indian entities are expected in the region in the days ahead. Experts say cargo quantity may increase significantly if the port is linked to the rail network. India is also involved in the construction of the 700-kilometer Chabahar-Zahedan railway line. Not only that, India has major investment plans in Iran, largely centered around the Chabahar port, as it gives India a strategic advantage over both China and Pakistan, and is about 170 kilometers from Pakistan's Gwadar port. The question we're asking on Global Lens tonight is this: while India will certainly not back down from its strategically significant deal with Iran, having strongly asserted its strategic autonomy and independent foreign policy on the global stage on multiple occasions in the past, will the United States indeed impose sanctions on India, a country it often describes as a close strategic partner? One that it also needs as a countervailing force against an expansionist and aggressive China in the Indo-Pacific. Also, having stated back in 2018 that India's Chabahar port deal with Iran would be exempt from sanctions, why is Washington now threatening to renege on its commitment? Is it a mere pressure tactic or a warning shot to other countries who may be contemplating doing business with Iran? Or could the US in fact go ahead and carry out its threat? And if it does so, what would that mean for the otherwise growing India-US ties, with President Biden no less describing it as the defining partnership of the 21st century during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's state visit to the US last year?
These reports that Iran and India have signed a deal concerning the Chabahar port. I will let the government of India speak to its own foreign policy goals vis-a-vis the Chabahar port, as well as its own bilateral relationship with Iran. I will just say, as it relates to the United States, U.S. sanctions on Iran remain in place and will continue to enforce them. Anyone considering business deals with Iran, they need to be aware of the potential risk that they are opening themselves up to and the potential risk of sanctions.